Hey guys, welcome back. I hope everybody is having a good week so far. Of course, cannot say the same with the crypto market, so let's dive right in. Today is December 19th, 2024. As you may already know, we did have a pretty rough past few days. Really, the biggest announcement was the US Fed announcing rate cut, which some may argue, okay, well, maybe the Bitcoin price dropped despite the announcement because people are rotating into traditional assets again. Um, they are sort of being more risk averse. Um, and while that is a possibility, I would also argue that, for example, the S&P 500 also did have a little bit of a pullback here. And so far, it is correlating with the Bitcoin chart. So, another possibility is, okay, well, are people tax loss harvesting or they're simply just preparing for a new year? Really unclear at this time. I'm sure a lot of people will tell you different hypotheses, but let's approach from a technical analysis perspective. So the other day, I believe this is the last time that we talked, and at the time I was a little more hopeful, hoping for a strong finish to the year 2024. That doesn't really look to be the case at this point, unless we have some sort of strong rally back to the upside. So we can only really interpret what's right in front of us. The next day, we did have this 5+% dip back into the yellow trend line. And even then, I was a little hopeful as to whether we would, simply retest this trend line and continue our way to the upside. But that was, of course, not the case. The next 24 hours, we did open above the yellow trend line, but ended up closing below it. So, of course, that's not a really good sign because the real body is now um, crossing the yellow trend line. But of course, from a TA perspective, that usually does not paint the whole picture. Really, what does worry me is an actual candle where the opening price is below the trend line. And if it does close also below the trend line now, that's a real candlestick below the trend line. And usually it's a bearish signal towards further downside price action. And that's what we're seeing right now. Now, in previous videos, I've talked about, 30 to 40% price drops during, past bull cycles, and I would not be surprised if you see the same thing here. Um, for example, a 30% price drop would bring us all the way back down to the $74,000 mark, which is initially where we started off right after the US election results. So it'd be very interesting to see if we would actually retest those prices at this time. It may be a little too early, but of course I cannot guarantee the future price. So, but we'll see. Um, for now, I would probably hold off on dollar cost averaging, unless your, cost basis is a very good price. Um, you know, let's say, let's say if it's below, 70,000, that's your cost basis, then I would continue to dollar cost average. Of course, that's not financial advice, but that's what I would do. Um, for example, I'll be pretty open here. I mean, my Bitcoin cost basis is less than 20K. So, And I've been a long time investor of Bitcoin. So, it's going to vary from person to person. So just make sure that you're doing what makes sense to you, what makes sense for your investment portfolio, and that's going to differ from person to person. Let's move on to Bitcoin dominance. Interestingly enough, it kept on increasing, increasing, increasing. And for the first time, even the Bitcoin dominance is starting to drop, which is, of course, correlating with the price movement. Um, Usually, when this happens, it either means that people are selling off Bitcoin or they are, rotating into alternative assets such as altcoins. So we can quickly look at the price of Ethereum, for example, once the chart loads. But you can tell that it continues to drop as well. And let's see what's happening with Solana. And, it did drop the past two candlesticks, but now it's starting to plateau. And I wonder if Solana will actually end up going up, which would, in a way, signal a mini um, altcoin cycle, so rotation into altcoins. That'd be actually very interesting to see to finish off 2024. But right now, at least from what it seems, the more likely possibility is people simply selling off Bitcoin. But we'll continue to look at this on a daily basis. Just going back to VXV really quickly. So I believe the last time I made the video, I was talking about this particular candlestick where we opened and closed below the horizontal resistance line. Um, and we continue to, create more candlesticks. Well, at least the market did, below the resistance line. This green candlestick that is forming right now, of course, looks very similar to Solana, which is interesting to see because vector space itself is on the Ethereum network. Speaking of Solana, let's check out our favorite meme coins. And honestly, I'll keep it very straightforward with you guys. I don't really talk about, I'm not really one of those guys that's going to talk about, oh, buy this coin, buy that coin. Now I'm looking into this. No, actually, we should be looking into that. This bull cycle, I'm just going to stick to the stuff I've already invested heavily in. And those are going to be my, you know, 3 to 4 convictions, very strong conviction plays that will stick until the end of this current cycle. Hopefully around the fall of 2025, like I said before, sometime, um, sometime September of 2025. Okay, so if you guys are following me, listening to my, you know, whatever podcast or video, if you will, week in and week out, you know that I'm really supportive of POPCAT with Turbo, Vector Space Biosciences, Solana, and my prediction for the top of the bull cycle is sometime in September of 2025. So you guys should already know my my beliefs and my approach by now. Okay. Um, So, I believe I mentioned this before once at least, but I was talking about how this weekly candle is a bit concerning because it did end up opening below the blue trend line that I've drawn before, and we continue to see an extension towards the downside. Um, if this continues on, then of course this blue trend line would no longer hold true. I mean, we can still leave it there to see if we retest it and then bounce back down. I'm actually hoping that we get out of this pit sooner than later. So I'm really hoping for perhaps some sort of big green candlestick, a bounce back up to the upside, and hopefully eventually we form a nice candlestick where it opens above the blue trend line and actually closes above the trend line as well. The size itself doesn't matter as long as we form that confirmatory candlestick, if you will, something like that. Okay. But for now, it's very risky to dollar cost average if you're even considering it. Um, my cost basis for PopCat is um, lower, let's just say, than the current price. So I'm not too stressed out. Of course, I am thinking about my risk management, but I have no intentions of selling any of my meme coins just because, I've already been buying these since, late 2022, early 2023. I've already allocated all my funds into the respective meme coins, and simply I'm just sitting and waiting. And every day I'm just checking the charts to just make sure that the project doesn't crumble to zero. Let's look at WIF quickly. Okay, so similar pattern. See, the similar pattern is just it just so happens that the candlestick for dog WIF hat is sitting on the blue trend line. And granted, I mean the overall pattern itself is also different from PopCat. You see, this one actually shot up and had a long plateau since, March of this year. So this is different from the PopCat chart, which was more of an exponential growth. And I say exponential because, like I said before, I keep all my charts on the logarithmic scale. In any case, this is a different type of pattern. You will see this same pattern with some of the other meme coins. And so the way that we interpret the trend line is going to be slightly different also. So you cannot, say that everything is correlating with each other. But, at least for WIF, right now it's sitting on the trend line. So we'll see if it also retests, perhaps build a green candlestick above the trend line eventually. Um, so, this one I would say, if you're interested, it might not be a bad idea to dollar cost average, just because we are sitting in this plateau and have been for a very long time. If it were to break down below this, $1.30 mark, then I'd be pretty concerned. But I think for now, not a bad idea to dollar cost average. Of course, not financial advice. Last but not least, let's look at Turbo. Like I've said before, I was not personally too interested or too impressed by the announcement on December 17th, but I do think that the developers are working very hard. They're trying to create more meaning out of this meme coin, which some people will appreciate. In terms of the trend line, this is a very rough one, a very rough one. Um, However, I will say, this is a true breakdown away from the trend line. It clearly opened below the blue trend line and continues to go down, similar to PopCat. It'd be interesting to see, for example, we had something similar here, perhaps on a smaller, um, range, but we eventually retested and then sat on it and then create a green candlestick above the blue trend line. So I'd be interested to see if we could bounce back in a similar fashion, because then, the blue trend line is a good trend line. If not, then we might even see a pattern where we go sideways for a very long time, um, perhaps even into the new year, and then we see some exponential growth or something of that manner. Okay, so that would be my prediction. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the crypto market as a whole right now. Like, I don't think there's any black swan event that would otherwise tank the crypto market as a whole. I think we are right where we should be. A lot of retracement, a lot of exponential growth. That's exactly what the bull cycle is all about. Um, but as another reminder, if you're doing leverage trading, if you're using margin and you get margin called, you will be burned. So that's the only thing that I would shy away from. Of course, not financial advice once again, but I'm simply against leverage trading, in at least in cryptocurrency. That may not be the case in traditional equities market where you have more information and less volatility, unless you're, of course, trading penny stocks. But crypto and more specifically meme coins, I would just be very, very careful. I'll be very mindful. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.